be it ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the two women went on in two until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them. And the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went out full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call you me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. Amen. We thank the Lord for the reading of His word. Here we find in the book of Ruth a story of two women, a very familiar story to some of us. They have been joined together through a chain of events. Naomi was the wife of Elkanah, and to their union there were two sons born from Bethlehem, Judah. Naomi and her husband Elkanah, they were God's chosen people. But there had been a famine in the land of Bethlehem, Judah. So they decided to leave their home. They decided to leave the ark of safety and travel to a strange foreign land, to the land of Moab, because food was in that land. Now Moab was on the east of the land of Israel, across the Dead Sea. It was in a barren area. It was a place where they worshiped idol gods. Moab was a place that had been cursed by God. Moab was hostile toward God's people. If you remember from history, Moab was formed when Lot, Abraham's nephew, had a child with his oldest daughter through an incestuous relationship. And that child that was born to them was named Moab. So the nation of Moab was cursed from the beginning. Their idol worship involved child sacrifices. Because of their rejection of the true God, idolatry and child sacrifices, God pronounced a curse on the nation. So imagine, if you will, God's people, Elkanah and his wife Naomi, leaving the ark of safety to go into a place that was cursed by God. Because they were going through a struggle or famine in the land, they decided to leave God and go to another place where food was. So this nation was cursed. And every generation born within this nation was also cursed. They were cursed down 10 generations. So we find this family joining itself to a nation that didn't know anything about God. They had their children there. Their sons married women of a strange God. And here we pick up in our text where we see that there is these Naomi and her two daughters-in-laws, Opal and Ruth, with a decision of whether to hold on to tradition, to what's safe, to what's comfortable, or to take a chance. Sometimes in our lives we're faced with decisions, whether to hold on to things that are traditional or safe or comfortable, or to take a chance and try God. Yes. So Ruth made a decision to embrace a God, a country, and a culture she knew nothing about. She's been gone for so long. And you know how that when we go through life, life has a way of changing us. The things that we go through, they change not only our physical being, but they change us inwardly as well. Right. And she said that, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara. She said, I went out full, but I came back empty. She said, the Lord has afflicted me. But if you really read the text, you'll understand that God never left Naomi, but she left the ark of safety. So the things that she experienced, no doubt, was because of her leaving God. So some of the things we suffer in life are a direct result of our disobedience to God and our unwillingness to follow him in the lean times. It's interesting to me, why did Naomi leave a God who had proven himself over and over again to the children of Israel? He proved himself to them when they were in Egypt. He proved himself to them when they were in the wilderness. Over and over again, we see in history how that God proved himself to be God to his people. So we see Naomi and Ruth. They were in a bad place. All of us sometimes find ourselves in places that we don't want to be in. They were both widowed. They were poor. They were destitute. They had no money. They had no food. And they were shameful. Naomi was very shameful because she had left the God of her fathers. And she'd come home with no sons, no husband, and no way to make a living. Sometimes, and also, there was no way for her family line to be continued. And the line meant everything in Israel's history. Who would carry on the bloodline? But they arrived home. The Bible says that in the 22nd chapter, the 22nd verse of the first chapter, they arrived home as the barley harvest was beginning. Point number one, I'm going to make 3 points and I'm going to take my seat. You can be in a barren place or a season in your life, but the right positioning produces harvest. It doesn't matter if you're barren or if you're in a dry season in your life. If you get in the right position, you can receive a harvest. Look at these two women. No money, no food, no men to provide for them. But they arrived back in the land of their fathers at the right time. They came home downtrodden, broken-hearted, but they arrived during barley season. And we pick it up in chapter 2. Ruth goes out to glean. And we know that by Jewish customs, poor could glean behind the reapers. The people who worked in the fields would go out and they would pick the best crops. And whatever was left from what they dropped or the little scraps that they didn't want, the poor and the widows, by Jewish law, could get the leftovers. But Ruth just so happened to go in the field that belonged to Boaz.